frozen moment that just shouldn't have existed. It's the kind of picture that makes your breath catch in your throat. Not because it's beautiful, but because something about it feels deeply, fundamentally wrong. My name is Ethan Cole, and for 15 years, photography has been my life. Faces, streets, stories. I captured them all through my lens. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the day I walked into my dark room and found her in the frame. A woman I had never seen before, standing right behind me, and she was smiling. The studio door was locked. I was completely alone. I remember just staring at that glossy print, my pulse hammering against my ribs. The details were impossibly clear. Her eyes were dark, distant, yet there was something hauntingly familiar about them. A soft strand of hair had fallen across her cheek. She was close enough to touch, but she wasn't there. I spun around, scanning the empty room. Nothing, just silence, broken only by the steady low hum of the red safe light. I let out a nervous laugh. Must have been a double exposure, I muttered, trying to force logic onto a situation that defied it. But a cold, sinking feeling in my gut told me that wasn't it. That night, sleep was a stranger. Her face followed me into the darkness. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smile. Every creak of the old apartment building sounded like her whisper. The next morning, I rushed back to my studio, desperate for a rational explanation. I pulled out the negatives, examining them under a magnifier. It was just as I feared. Only one frame was corrupted. That same impossible picture, that same woman. But as I stared, a new wave of cold dread washed over me. Her face had changed. The smile was gone. Now she was staring directly at me, her expression flat, accusatory. By the third day, my hands trembled every time I even picked up my camera. I started avoiding mirrors, reflections, even the dark, glassy surface of my own camera lens. It didn't matter. She wouldn't leave. Every new photo I took seemed to contain fragments of her. A hand half hidden in the background, a silhouette in a distant window, the faint edge of her dress brushing against my shoulder. I became obsessed. I checked the walls for hidden projectors, tore the studio apart, searching for any sign of tampering. I found nothing. And then one morning, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. In one of the photos, her shadow. It aligned perfectly with mine. It was as if she was cast from my own form. Desperate, I went to see my old mentor, Harold. He was a veteran photographer who had spent decades studying not just the mechanics of images, but their psychology, the way emotion can somehow imprint itself onto film. He took the picture from my trembling hands and studied it in a long, heavy silence, his eyes narrowing. "You didn't take this photo," he said finally, his voice low. I frowned, confused. Of course I did. It came from my camera. Harold just shook his head slowly. "No. This picture took you." I felt the floor seem to tilt beneath my feet. "What are you talking about?" Harold leaned closer, and I could see he was unnerved, his voice barely a whisper. "Every camera, every lens, every frame, it doesn't just capture light, Ethan. It captures a moment of consciousness, something that exists in the space between what is seen and what is unseen. And if you stare into that space long enough, sometimes something stares back." I left Harold's place feeling more shaken than ever and returned to my apartment. The city outside was choked in a thick, disorienting fog. The streetlights flickered like dying fireflies. That night, I tried to burn the photos. I held a lighter to the glossy paper, but the flame refused to catch. The print remained cold, untouched, as if it was rejecting its own destruction. In a fit of rage and fear, I tore them to shreds and threw them in the trash. But when I woke up the next morning, heart pounding, the photos were there, stacked neatly on my nightstand, fully restored. And this time the woman wasn't alone. In the background, faint but unmistakable, stood another figure. It was me. My eyes were closed, my expression completely blank. After that, the days and nights just blurred into one long, continuous nightmare. I stopped eating. I stopped leaving the apartment. My own reflection in the bathroom mirror began to fade. My image grew softer, less real with each passing day. When friends called, my voice trembled down the line. I think she's pulling me in." They'd laugh nervously, telling me I was just exhausted, overworked. But I knew the truth. Reality itself was slipping away from me, frame by frame. I started recording myself with a small video camera, desperate to document what was happening, to prove I wasn't losing my mind. Each playback revealed subtle, terrifying changes. My room appeared dimmer in the recordings, and the woman's shadow was creeping closer and closer behind me. Then one evening, while reviewing the footage, I froze. The recording showed me sitting at my desk, just as I was. Then, she stepped into the frame, materializing from the shadows behind me. Her hand reached out and touched my shoulder. I physically jumped, spinning around in my chair, but the room was empty. No one was there. My heart was a drum against my ribs. When I turned back to the screen, the video had changed. The woman was now facing the camera directly, and she was smiling again. That was it. I ran. I fled my apartment, my breath ragged, my mind unraveling at the seams. I stumbled through the rain-drenched streets, still clutching my camera like a talisman. At the far edge of the city stood an old, abandoned photography museum. On pure instinct, I forced the heavy doors open and called out into the echoing darkness. "Who are you?" My voice cracked. "Why are you doing this to me?" An echo answered back, but it wasn't my own voice. It was a soft, hollow whisper that seemed to come from all around me. "Because you saw me." I spun around, but the massive hall was empty. Only rows of old, forgotten portraits stared out from dusty frames. And then I noticed it. One photograph hanging crooked on the wall, its glass cracked. My blood went ice cold. It was her, the same woman, the same eyes, the same faint, unnerving smile. I leaned closer, my reflection appearing in the fractured glass. And for a terrifying moment, my reflection merged with her face, as if we shared one twisted identity. Then the single working light in the hall flickered, and in that split second of darkness, I saw it. I saw myself inside the photograph, trapped behind the glass. The next morning, police found the museum door ajar. My camera lay on the cold stone floor, the film still inside. When they developed the roll, every single frame was black, except for the very last one. It was a single horrifying image. A man, his face a mask of silent terror, standing behind a pane of glass. And right behind him, a woman, smiling. Weeks later, the museum reopened as part of a city restoration project. Visitors would often pause at one particular exhibit, a large antique framed photograph, labeled simply, "Frozen Frame." Some people swore the image looked different each time they saw it. Others claimed the man's expression seemed to change depending on the angle of the light. One woman even reported seeing her own reflection where the man's face should have been. Of course, no one believed her. But late at night, after the doors are locked and the halls fall silent, the security cameras sometimes catch something strange. A faint, almost imperceptible flicker in the photograph, as if the figures trapped inside are shifting, moving. And from somewhere deep within the museum's quiet halls, you can sometimes hear a soft metallic sound. The click of a camera shutter, going off over and over and over again. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Until then, stay safe.